let me say a special good morning to Grenada, Carriacou, Petit Martinique, the rest of the Eastern Caribbean, the world. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Let me say good morning to those of you via K105, 105.9. Also, good morning to you. Those of you via GBN TV, whether it's Channel 7, Channel 11, or Channels 20. Good morning. Let me say good morning to of course, social media platform this morning, Facebook. Good morning. Those of you who are just touching the live, good morning to you. Don't forget to share the live as you pop in, share it to friends and family. It's another edition of To The Point, and if you can see to my immediate right this morning, you see that we have, it's called Opposition Tuesday. We have Senator Neilon Franklyn with us this morning. Let's go over and say good morning and get ourselves acquainted to somebody. Good morning to you, sir. How are you doing this morning?
Good morning, sir.
You could call me GT. You could call me GT. I can work it out. I can work it out.
Good morning, GT, and good morning to your listeners and viewers. It feels good to be back here after a long time within the walls of the GBN. Man.
I was actually learning that you don't have to be at GBN. You'd be at GBN. Was it the newsroom?
Yes, it used to be in the newsroom.
Yeah. Well, nice to have you back.
Thanks, man.
Nice to have you back. So how are you this morning, man? How are you this morning?
I am good. I can't complain at this time. I was offered another day by the Almighty, and I'm thankful for that.
All right, that's good. I mean, you always have to give thanks and praise.
Of course.
Once you get the opportunity to do it, just give it.
Of course.
Directly or indirectly, as I would say sometimes. Well, let me welcome you to the point this morning. Let me say good morning to the viewers and listeners this morning. As you know, it's Opposition Tuesday. That's where we entertain members of the opposition here on To The Point. And this morning, as I mentioned, no other than Senator Neilon Franklyn with us this morning. Neilon, let's get things rolling off the ball this morning. Tell us something about yourself. We captured the earlier in the earlier intro where you talked about being part of GBN. So that's where it is. Tell me how the process has started for you to the level that you have gotten now. How the process has started for you.
Well,
first and foremost, where are you from?
Right. I am from the small community of Brizan in St. George's. That is where I was born and raised and still continue to live. I have no intentions of leaving anytime soon. I went to the then Hatfield Primary School, Hatfield RC School, which is now the Uganda Matters RC School. I went on to the Grenada Boys Secondary School, on to TAM CC, and then, currently I am at St. George's University. After I finished TAM CC, I went on to work in various places. Well, first with my uncle, he's an electrician. I then worked for a short while with Southern Electrical and then with the GBN.
Okay.
So the GBN, I spent a long time here. I think it was a year and 3 months here.
Consider that a long time?
Yeah, that's a long time. I got a lot of grooming here. In terms of honing my writing and speaking skills. I was guided or trained under the likes of people like Tony Julian, Brenda Batiste, Ken Roy Batiste, and so on. I then pursued career elsewhere. I always felt as though my purpose in life was to serve and to give of myself to the people of Grenada, and the Caribbean. I don't think we could exclude the Caribbean at this time because of the direction we're going. So when the opportunity presented itself, I applied through the Public Service Commission to become a customs officer, and I spent 4 years and 5 or 6 months in the Customs and Excise Division, where I was responsible for a lot of different things. I worked at the airport while I was there, at St. George's Port. I worked alongside various departments within the RGPF and so on.
Right.
It was an interesting time. I do not regret my time there, actually. It was a tough decision to leave, but I knew from a very young age that my responsibility in life, or my calling in life, would have been to serve. And whenever the opportunity availed itself, I gave of myself to do so. So a number of opportunities came while I was working to serve in voluntary capacities. I served as the Prime Minister of the National Youth Parliament. I served as the opposition leader of the National Youth Parliament. I went on to represent Grenada in the 15th Regional Youth Parliament in Trinidad and Tobago in 2019 as a member of the opposition. Locally, I've served in various youth groups. While I was here at GBN, I was a part of the Radioactive as a regular member and then became president of the Radioactive. Okay. So I've served in a number of capacities, not major capacities as at government level, but at this time I've been offered an opportunity to serve the people of Grenada, Carriacou and Petit Martinique in the Senate, and I've accepted.
One of the things I remember about you a lot, is being part of being that youth ambassador.
Right. So I was actually a youth ambassador also.
So you slip up on somebody.
Yes.
All right. I mean, going through all those stages of life as being a youngster, and I know you being the youngest member of parliament there is right now.
Yeah.
How does it feel?
It's an interesting feeling, to be honest. It doesn't change who I am generally. It comes with a lot of responsibility in that I have an opportunity to set the pace for others who would want to follow in that footstep or in that path. And I take that responsibility very seriously in that I do not want to engage in anything that would sway the young people's views as relates to politics and politicians in the opposite direction, and to encourage them to get on board and serve in whatever capacity they can to aid in our national development.
Yeah. So we move from media to parliament, to the upper house of parliament, and I saw you when you made your maiden speech. How have you felt about that?
My maiden speech was done on the spot, to be honest.
Really?
While I was sitting there.
Yeah.
I thought about, you think you want to sound grand, you want to make a nice speech. But I remember speaking with Dr. Mitchell the day before, and all he said to me was, speak from the heart. And that is basically what I did. I didn't want to start off by listing accolades or achievements, but simply to say thank you to the people that I thought contributed to me being where I was at that time. Specifically my family, especially my close family members, some of my mother, my sisters, my brothers, my cousins, my uncles, my aunts, and so on. The people that I've worked with, especially in GBN, and they know, because I've had conversations while I was here about what I wanted to do in the future, and it was never me acquiring riches or fame or so. It was always serving, giving of myself to the people in whatever way I could, and that's basically what it spoke from the heart and expressed how thankful I was to be in that position, because we acquire things in life and we always forget to reflect on where we came from, and that is something that I do not want to forget or leave behind or devalue. Where I came from, a humble place.
Some folks would say it's not always good. Some folks may have that opinion. It's not always good to look back. It's not always
true.
But sometimes, depending on the circumstances, you look back there. So from where you were to where you have got now.
Exactly, and I think where I came, I didn't come from a family with wealth and riches. I grew up with my mother and my grandmother, so I saw them, specifically my mother, work hard to send myself and my other siblings to school and so on. And I saw my other family members, my uncles and so, work as hard to send their children to school, my cousins to school. So I came from a family where hard work was the quote of the day, and anything that each and every one of us achieved was through hard work and perseverance.
Being in the political realm right now, as you are into it right now, being a young individual and you know the state of politics, not only in Grenada, but in the world. How do you feel about young people getting into politics? Being a youngster yourself, at the level that you are at right now? Because they would say that there's, even though there are young people who are into politics in the world, but it's still a handful of them. There's not much, especially within Grenada. There's not much of young folks within your age range who have gotten into politics. I'm not sure if it's a deterrent, there's something deterring them away from it or whatever it is, or some reason maybe the interest is not as broad as it should be. What?
I think generally. It is important that we understand where we are going, not just as Grenadians, but people in the world, human beings generally. When you look at the political demographic globally, you realize that is more the middle age to the upper age or older folks, and they make decisions for what that would affect us as the younger generation. It is important, in my view, for us as young people to get involved so that the policymakers could understand how we feel and what we think is best for us, or what we think will contribute to our ability to exist in the future. Typical example, climate change. Most of the people who make the policies as relates to climate change are older folks. We've seen, for example, Greta Thunberg, who has been vocal since 2015 to now as relates to climate activism. And we have seen the impact of that. Young people make up the majority of the world at this point, especially in Grenada. So our interests should be sought at every level. We've seen previously, we've had an election. Prior to the election, years or decades before that, we've seen a number of different young people enter the political sphere, give of themselves, and then leave or grow into it. At this particular juncture, we find a lot of younger people involved. And it is necessary especially at this time, we're in 2022, for young people. And when we say young people, I don't necessarily mean under the age of 18 or under the age of 10 or so, but keeping within the scope of the definition of a young person between 18 and 35 who are legally able to enter the political sphere and get involved in the policy decision-making process. It is important for us to be involved because everything affects us at the end of the day.
All right. Neilon, just stick up in there. We come back and suddenly have much more conversation this morning here on To The Point. We do for a break. We're going to take that break, folks. We're coming right back. Don't touch your dial.
I want you folks to play these 3 games from the NLA. Daily Pick 3 cash flow and play with. You will be supporting sports and culture, nation building and our future. So go out and play, folks, make it a must. You will see what the National Lottery is doing for us. When you play Pick 3 cash flow and play with, the NLA will support you all the way.
Starting September 30th, Monday to Friday, these 3 games will be drawn mid-morning, 9:45 a.m., midday, 12:45 p.m., and evenings, 7:45 p.m. The National Lotteries, supporting sports, culture, and nation building.
Sunday money
Mr. Major Wing Kai, then you have things like Manu Moss, Cross Combat, We have the low folder.
It is kind of like the same man, and it's just different name for the same kind of thing.
And last but not least, I just want to say to all the men who saw me, call me, and ask for a piece of cake, I'm baking this weekend.
Join us Fridays at 8 on GBN Television, K105 FM, GBN's Facebook page, and YouTube channel for We Culture.
On the road.
Welcome back, listeners and viewers. It's to the point for today, Tuesday, the 8th day of November, which is the year 2022. And you can see to my immediate right, we have for you Senator Neilon Franklyn with us this morning. And we're talking. We're certainly talking this morning. So, let's continue with this conversation. One of the things I want to talk to you about is politics in Grenada on a youthful level. Mm-hmm. We know there's a lot of things that are happening with young people in Grenada, and you being a young senator, what would you like to see, or how would you like to see, government per se, do things that would enhance young people in Grenada?
For one, I would like to see that continued process of inclusion that existed previously under the past administration, where young people get involved in at various levels. For example, how I got involved in the National Youth Parliament. That is a program that I think has a lot of potential and can mold and shape a lot of excellent youthful politicians. Mm-hmm. Who would not necessarily enter for personal gain, but to contribute wherever they can to national development. I also think that we have an excellent opportunity at this time to encourage government to implement programs and policies that are geared towards I don't want to say change, but give the young people the opportunity to lift themselves. We had the Imani program that was implemented under the past administration and even continuing now. One of the things this administration campaigned on was to reform and revamp it. I think it's an excellent opportunity to provide the young people with the capacity necessary for to chart their own course. Mm-hmm. A number of times we see young people are told to go in a particular direction and not guided to go in a particular direction. One of the policies that I remember the previous administration had indicated that they would have gotten into was the whole inclusion of ICT and getting young people involved. I remember there was a press conference done by the former Prime Minister and the Chancellor of SGU, and there were negotiations as relates to getting those tech companies from the US to set up here, mm-hmm. and training the young people, equipping them with that skills necessary for the future. Technology is the way to go at this point in time, and I think there is an excellent opportunity now to steer the young people in that direction and get them involved in robotics and engineering and coding and so. And I would encourage this current administration to keep to review rather that and revisit that negotiation that took place, or that indication mm-hmm. of an implementation of a technical hub or an engineering hub for young IT enthusiasts on island. I listened to what you said there, mm-hmm. and opportunities for young people sometimes in Grenada seem to be of a limited stage, mm-hmm. Especially when it comes to the ICT and other engineering fields where young people may have a lot of great interest. Mm-hmm. Young people these days, they're into the computers, they're into this, more than, and a lot of attention now has been put into the agriculture, and so we're not leaving that out. Yeah. You understand? Mm-hmm. Because they can go hand in hand. Yes. You understand? Using technology to help with agriculture and so forth, that is a big part. That could play a major part in terms of nation development. Exactly, yeah. and I think, and that is why I was saying, we have to continue in that direction and at least ensure that investments are made in the development and honing of the skills in ICT, so that it becomes easier for those young people who actually want to get get involved in agriculture to utilize those technical skills. At this time, I don't think the traditional forms or means of agriculture is very attractive to our generation. And I think if mechanization is allowed for in agriculture and the involvement of various technologies, we can see agriculture move from where it is now to the stage where Grenada might be an economic powerhouse in the region, a trading powerhouse in the region. And to note, my main career goal later on in my life is to specialize in trade and trade policy development. So I would like to see us start that process of boosting agriculture, but through mechanization, through the inclusion of technology. And we have an excellent opportunity now for that.
Let's just flip the switch a little bit here for a minute. Your process in life right now, as being a young senator, and I'm assuming you may like to advance into the political realm. I see you smile on you may like to advance into the political realm. Where does it go for Senator Neilon at this stage right now?
I grew up with a strong Christian background, and one of the things even my grandmother used to say before she passes, put everything in God's hands. And the decision to accept the appointment of opposition senator was not a decision that I made on my own. I prayed about it. I asked various family members to pray about it, and then all indication was given that should be the direction I should go.
Okay, it was not an easy decision.
No,
it wasn't an easy decision.
No, it wasn't at all.
Knowing what it's like to be, what you know, where your life comes into play now in the political realm. Not only in Grenada but around the world, you know what it's like.
Exactly.
And you know, you may not be an individual that may like that sort of lifestyle to a point, but you know, when you get into the political, you know what happens.
Yeah.
They say your business is exposed.
True. And you have to accept what
it really is.
Yeah.
You know, whatever it comes to. But tell me, what's the foresee? What do you foresee yourself being in this? I mean, do you want to go through this full time? Right? This is just, you know, something that you just go through the motion of it until it gets to that part when the other major decision has to be made.
I would let God guide me at this time. So whatever he says, that is what I would go with.
I certainly understand where you're coming from. I understand where it is. You know, you would just let the course play. You understand? You at that stage where it is at now. You're in Parliament. You could help in terms of fostering development for Grenada. And I'm assuming that you would like to have those opportunities where you could put your 2 cents in to foster the help.
Yes, of course.
Development Grenada.
Of course. And like I said earlier, this is an excellent opportunity, and it's one that has to be looked at carefully on my path, because I don't want to obscure the ability of, or hinder the ability of other young people, or the perception of other young people of politics, and deter them from wanting to get involved. And I think I will use the opportunity to encourage as much young people to get involved, because one person can do it. 15 people can do it.
That's so true.
You understand?
Yeah.
23 people, 20 people can do it. So
you being on the opposition side of government right now, you understand where it's a tough side to be on, if I would say so. Or some folks may say it's an easy side to be on, because you know, a lot of what's happening in terms of the nation development may not be left up to you. You understand? It's need of the current government party or whoever is in power. You know, if an opportunity for you is presented to you to go further in this, to help in further nation building, would you accept it?
Opportunity as in?
I mean, when I'm saying opportunity, well, the current party says, you know, Neilon, I think we could offer you a place in the government that could lead you to help and further develop in Grenada. Would that be something you would consider? Am I putting you in a tough spot here?
Like I said earlier, I depend heavily on the Almighty Father to guide me, and at this time I don't want to be one who opposes for opposing's sake, but to give criticism where criticism is due and necessary, and to hold, especially the current administration, because they've campaigned on things and made promises that a lot of, especially young people, expect and expected to see. So my responsibility now is to hold them accountable to what they've promised and what they are doing. More so from a youthful perspective, especially in the arena of youth development. Whatever policies they put in place, is it detrimental to youth development? Does it hinder our ability as young people to live or develop or continue to exist and live a sustainable life? Or does it encourage us to realize our fullest potential?
You mentioned youth development, and I'm sensing you sort of have a passion in terms of youth development. What would you like to foresee for youth development in Grenada?
For one, more sustainable jobs. At this time, we've seen, prior to the election, we saw the current administration campaign on, for example, eradicating contract work in the public service. They made claims that it is illegal and it can be addressed with the stroke of a pen. A lot of young people, the public service as it is now is very youthful. I was once a part of the public service. A lot of young people still in the public service. The promise of removing contract work and regularizing all these people is still left unchecked. And I would like to see policies geared at sustainable job creation. Previously mentioned in the area of ICT, engineering, and technical development, so to speak. There's an excellent opportunity to create jobs in that area. Previously, as stated before, the previous administration gave indication that they would have engaged, or they started that engagement with SGU to have that hub to get the tech giants from the US and elsewhere to come in. That would have created excellent jobs or sustainable jobs for our young people and give them the skills and training necessary to create jobs for themselves. And that, I think, should be considered going forward. Another thing is the encouragement of entrepreneurs. The government cannot and will not be able to employ everybody. That's a fact. But there can be programs, there can be initiatives, there can be incentives given to the youthful population, especially those who have business ideas. While I was in college, for example, I know there was an end-of-year project that the technical students used to do. This is an opportunity for government to give the necessary incentives to these young people to get their ideas up from the ground. We've seen a number of young people, they have brilliant ideas, but they can't kickstart it. I think that is the direction we need to go, to give these young people who have those brilliant ideas, the opportunity to develop themselves, to create businesses, to add to economic activity. And in the end, it would ease the burden on government to create employment. And at this time, I think the current administration is passing up on that opportunity to go in that direction.
All right. Let's take another break. Senator Neilon, we're coming right back. It's To The Point for today, Tuesday, here on K105 and the GBN TV. We're coming right back.
Let's mingle and jingle.
You mean jingle and mingle, right?
Does it really matter? Mingle and Jingle, the mid-morning program that will drive the Christmas season. Weekdays from 10 a.m. to 12 noon on Classic Radio, GBN Television, and all GBN social media platforms.
It's where the deals of the season are, where the Christmas music is played, holiday traditions are relived, and where all the fun is.
Mingle and Jingle.
Or Jingle and Mingle. Mid-mornings from November 14th to December 23rd only on the GBN network.
Made possible by
Flow,
West the Hall Rums,
Hard On Plus,
Judy Free Caribbean Holdings,
Ace Hardware,
Gittins Healthcare, and
Grenville Credit Union.
On the road with the NLA, live in Hot 98, Thursdays at 10 a.m. and on GBN Television, Thursdays at 8 p.m. Meet the players, the agents, learn more about the exciting games of the NLA and how it has been transforming lives across the country. Promotion runs until December 15th.
Welcome back to our listeners and viewers this morning. It's to the point for today, Tuesday, the 8th of November. And we have Senator Neilon Franklyn with me this morning. And let's continue our conversation, Senator. A question that comes to mind, and you hear it from time to time for young people, you know, and they talk, you know, Grenada today, the cost of living is something that has seemed to be troubling lots of individuals, especially young people who may have just started working and stuff like that, and may have to help in terms of support the family, even though they have just started. You know, what's your views on the cost of living in Grenada from a personal standpoint, or maybe from within your organization also?
Generally, I think COVID, we are experiencing the lingering effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, not just nationally but globally. That issue in Ukraine is compounding the effects of that. And we've seen food prices skyrocket. The cost of fuel has gone up and has gone down in recent times. Electricity rates has gone up. I think now a lot of young people are being affected by this particular issue of high cost of living, and it is important that the policymakers look at the situation carefully. One of the measures that I can recall being put in place as of recent times, I think it was of the 1st of October, was the freight cap, the cap on freight charges, on the freight rate rather. While some may think it's a good policy, I found, with my background as being a customs officer, I look at everything from the ground up, look at all sides of it before agreeing or disagreeing to something. In the US, as of recent times, a couple of weeks ago, inflation rate was at 8%. In Europe, it was at 10%. I remember looking at a news clip, and Independent Senator Bernie Sanders was making mention to those statistics. And when I look at the components that make up the customs value when taxes are applied at our borders, the three main components are cost, insurance, and freight. More so cost and freight, sorry. The cap on freight was done as relates to regions. So the US, there's no cap. Europe, there is no cap. And I think, if my memory serves me right, Europe, Asia, CARICOM. America, CARICOM, South America, Africa, Asia, and Oceania. Those are the regions that were categorized. The US has no freight cap, Africa has no freight cap, and Europe has no freight cap. But we see the cost of goods going up.
Yeah.
The inflation globally is compounding that or affecting that increase in cost of goods. Whereas, yes, freight charges have gone up, there were no measures put in place to address those high cost of goods coming from those regions. And I think that is what is critical. The areas that the cap was put on, there was no significant increase, especially in that of South America, where the unit charge, the freight charge per unit, went from 62 to 77. It is understood why you would want a cap, because it does contribute. But what about the most significant increase in that of the raw cost of the goods coming from those regions? That needs to be addressed. The freight cap only benefits those large businesses. To be quite frank.
So it doesn't really trickle down to the regular individual who imports.
Exactly, unless the businessman or woman decides, you know what, out of good faith, let's pass that on to the consumer. From my experience, that doesn't happen. What I've seen previously, and I'll use an example. During the COVID period, government passed a cabinet conclusion, I think it was, for PPEs, to reduce the taxes on PPEs to 6%, which was the applied custom service charge. PPEs would include masks, hand sanitizers, and so on. We actually saw the cost of those items triple, quadruple over that time when COVID was a serious problem. It shows that whenever an olive branch or a hand is extended from government to the business community, there isn't any serious reciprocity. There isn't a give back, especially to those consumers, those of us who purchase the items. While the cost of goods is going up, we hear a lot of young people complaining that their salaries are not moving. One would have thought that at this particular juncture, government would have stayed the course, collect the revenues they were collecting previously, and offer a larger salary increase to their public officers, reinvest those collections back into the economy and various social programs and so on. So you have that continuous circulation of funds. But no, we see that there has been a very liberal approach taken to spending and no serious policy put in place for revenue collection or sustainable revenue collection. And that, again, from my past experience as a revenue collecting officer, is concerning and needs to be looked at as it relates to keeping the economy stable, dealing with the cost of living issue, and ensuring that the people, especially young people of Grenada, have some sort of benefit or buffer or cushion when it comes to dealing with the cost of living issue.
So you say, if you were offered to, if you were given the opportunity to advise government, if you would, on the cost of living, what are some of the measures you think, from your point of view, should be implemented?
Expand the investments locally. You have social programs. You have programs that you can increase your capital expenditure in. I would advise them to do so. What we've seen, especially from the debate, the supplementary budget debate that was held recently, one of the things noticed is that the the current expenditure would increase at the end of the year, while the capital expenditure would decrease. And one would logically think that any government would want to invest heavily on the capital side so that you would have that spillover and in terms of their collection. Continue the expansion of those capital projects. You have a number of projects currently existing and they can invest in more. Refrain from firing people who are perceived to be supporters of the previous administration. I don't think it's sustainable. I don't think it is in the best interest of Grenada as a whole. And all it does is sow divisiveness. I don't think that is the direction we want as Grenadians. We should be working together collaboratively for the collective benefit of the state and not just a selective few.
All right, we drew for another break. Let's take that break and we come back and in our final segment of To The Point for this here on K105 and GBN TV. We're coming right back.
Looking for that injection of vibes and energy, of course? Well, I've got just that. Hi, my name is Gary, Mr. Smooth, and I'm inviting you to join me on the Hot Morning Show on Hot 98.5, 98.7 FM. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 10 in the morning. I've got a healthy dose of your favorite and most infectious hits sampled with information, news, laughter, and all the other ingredients that go into making the hottest morning show on the radio. The Morning Heat. And while you're at it, don't forget to hit us up on WhatsApp, 435-7517. We've got topics, we've got discussions, calls, voice notes, and so much more. But I can't tell you everything. You gotta tune in. The Hot Morning Show on Hot FM 98.5, 98.7 with yours truly, Gary, Mr. Smooth. Kaboom!
Welcome back, folks. It's K105, GBN TV. It's To The Point for today, Tuesday, the 8th of November. We have Senator Neilon, Franklyn with me this morning, and it's what we call Opposition Tuesday here on To The Point, where we invite a member of the opposition party to come by and chat with them about policies and issues where they can see in terms of helping to forward this beautiful island of ours. You know, years gone by, they were not in opposition, you know, to have a conversation with officially, in an official capacity. There were other parties in Grenada. Now, Senator Neilon, let me ask you this. I hope I'm not going to drive you into a deep political realm. Is there in your political ambition to foresee, and if the opportunity is awarded to you, you know, to become a full-fledged member of parliament, would you accept that?
Well, at this time, I could safely say that I am a member of parliament.
Yes, you are. When I'm talking about when I say that, maybe I've said it in the wrong direction. You know, you decide, hey, the opposition leader have called upon you and he said, hey, you know, I think I would like you to run for a particular constituency and stuff like that. Are you thinking? Although you said it left up to, you know, let the matter run its course, but you ever think about doing it in that particular way, or not just being a senator, but being you know, what do you think?
Well, I am assuming that you're referring to becoming a member of the lower house. In terms of being elected. Again, I don't want to jump the gun or preempt anything. Life is dynamic. So anything can happen. We're here today, we're not here tomorrow. Opportunities come that may be in the best interests of the state, maybe in the best interests of the region, the world, you never know. But at this time, more so focused on fulfilling my responsibilities as a senator, completing my tertiary education, giving of myself wherever I can, give advice wherever I can, work with various groups wherever I can. But let's see what God has in store. As it relates to representative politics.
What's your take on full nation development as it is right now in Grenada, with the new government, and you watching it from a opposition position in terms of nation development? What's your take?
National development. It is a critical time in our existence as a country. We can see significant development or we can regress. And I think any new administration generally would be faced with that task as to how they would deal with carrying the country or steering the country to a point where we can, as a whole, realize true economic development, social development, and so on. I think for the past 9 years, we have seen tremendous development in Grenada. We've seen significant economic, social, and political stability in Grenada. And at this time, what I personally do not want to see is that we regress. And my humble advice to the current administration is to keep in mind that your responsibility as government is not to one group of people, but is to all of us as Grenadians. We were all born here.
Yep.
We are all Grenadians. So, as the old people say, we navel string cotton berry here. Political affiliation and perception should not determine who develops and who doesn't. It's a bad formula. And we've experienced what that does as a country, as a region, and generally across the world. We've seen examples of that. I think it was Nelson Mandela when he became the president of South Africa. He was faced with that decision. Should I be vindictive to those who oppressed us previously, or should I focus on steering the country and developing the country for all of us, black or white, whether or not you supported me or you were opposed to me? And we saw, and we are continuing to see that his decision to steer the country and move the country in a direction that would realize holistic development for everybody, despite who it was, despite the hardship that him and his race went through. South Africa is in a better place. Yeah. And I think at this time, it is important for this current administration to consider that, to not be vengeful, to not be vindictive, to not tie the hands of the lower class of the people in Grenada who depend on a particular program, for example, the Bushing program, to purchase food for their family and so on, because of political affiliation or perceived political affiliation. The young people who may or may not have supported them, who promises were made to, we would like to see that these people are afforded the opportunity to realize their fullest potential and capacity, not hindered or chastised or treated in a particular way, pushed to the sidelines because of perceived political affiliation. It's not a good formula. It does not treat well to us developing as a country. And again, I think that is what they should be considering. How we move the country to a next level by not victimizing anybody or firing anybody or, at this time.
A question I want to ask you, or maybe you can put your personal opinion on it. The first 100 days of the current administration, what's your personal take on it thus far, in terms of all that happened from their coming into government to where they're at right now? What's your personal opinion on how they have handled stuff?
I think one of the things that can safely be said is that the current administration has entered government with a very nice economic wave, a very stable social situation, a very stable political situation in Grenada. And most of what we've seen is, especially on the economic side, as it relates to projects and so on, is an expansion of previous initiatives. At this time, what is appalling to me is there were comments made or promises made that immediately upon entering office we would regularize everybody in the public service. We would remove contract work on the stroke of a pen and so on. We're not seeing that. Of course, it's more complicated than one would think, and the fact that those promises were made, that immediately, within the first 100 days, these things would be done, and we're not seeing it. It begs the question, was it really realistic? Did they know it was realistic? Or did they just make the promise for making the promise sake, to garner votes? What has happened over the first 100 days? What we've seen is a restricting of certain social programs like the debushing programs and so on, dismissals of people across the public service, reissuance of the contract that they said were illegal, contracts that they said were illegal. And I don't think right now they should claim the 100 days as a major achievement, because let's be frank, there are very, very, very few things, and I don't like to be a stick in the mud to oppose for opposing's sake. Very few things that you can point to say this was a new initiative or this was something new. One of the things that comes to mind is the removal of school fees. It's a good initiative because it affords the opportunity to people who don't have to go to school. But like I asked the question in the Senate and the Minister for Education responded, was it considered that when you've removed the school's ability to generate income on its own, did government allocate funds specifically to the upkeep of those schools? The minister responded, and he gave an indication that yes, they did consider that. So I would give them that. But generally speaking, within the first 100 days, I cannot point to anything that has been significantly new. All that we have seen is an expansion of previous projects and initiatives, and I think they should give the previous administration kudos for its prudent fiscal management and so on.
Senator, we're coming to a wrapping up stage of this morning's program, and I'm not sure if there's anything final you would like to throw out before we take a wrap this morning.
My final comments basically is for there to be a national call on the side of the current administration for unity. I don't think that has been done previously, and it is important that especially supporters from both sides see that it's not green and yellow, but it's Grenada. The motto on our coat of arms, it doesn't say aspire, build and advance as NNP or NDC or two people or different people. It says as one people, as Grenadians, and that is what we should thrive on at this time. That is what we should hold true and dear to us, that at the end of the day, Grenada cannot develop with one person or one group of people. It takes all of us to develop Grenada.
Senator Neilon, I want to thank you so much for being with us here this morning. I hope we could have another opportunity for more conversation as time goes by. It's early stages of everything for now. Just a couple of months. You be the incident in Parliament and so forth. So as time goes on, more policies being implemented. Maybe you want to contribute on it in some way or the other. We could have you back on the program and talk some more. So I want to thank you for accepting the opportunity to be here with us this morning on To The Point. And until we do this again, have yourself a great day.
Thank you, man. Most welcome.
All right.
You too.
Hey, Grenada, Caracupity Martinique. I want to thank you folks for being part of To The Point for today. It's Tuesday, the 8th day of November. Join us again for another edition, which will be tomorrow, once your money permits. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. Goodbye.